What's up, Buff Nation? Thank you for tuning in today. We're going to talk about the Cormani McClain situation. And I know you've heard about it, you've listened to, and you've read everything already, but I think there's a vital piece of this that people are not really hitting on. And I'm going to try and talk about it a little bit today with you. Joining me again today is my buddy Jay from Unfair Sports. We told you in our last video that Jay is going to be helping us out a little bit here on the channel. We'll explain more and more of that as we go along. But Jay, thank you for jumping in, man. How you doing today?
I'm great, TJ. Thanks a bunch for having me, man. Looking forward to talking some Buffs and really talk about Cormani McClain. This is a very interesting situation.
Let me say this, Jay. I want to preface this by saying, I was so excited when he chose Colorado. I live in the state of Florida. The Gators thought they were going to get him. Miami got him almost. Got him this finish line, and then the rumors started coming out. The rumblings started happening. It was looking like Colorado. I was excited for that. Who better to learn under than Coach Prime? And man, before he even took a snap, Coach Prime had some very strong things to say for him. I think that Coach Prime is very okay with doing that because he wants to kind of light a fire under some people's butts. And, I don't want to make this a Cormani bash session at all, but I do want to kind of talk about some of this. And I'm a little frustrated because I was so excited to see him play, but what are your thoughts just overall before we kind of jump into this?
I think my favorite thing about this, and probably one of those things that a lot of people aren't paying much attention to, is really how Prime responded to it, right? Instead of him coming out saying things that you would expect a coach to say in response to a kid leaving, he's like, I want the best for him. Wish the best for him. I want him to man up. I want him to be better. I want him to be great. And he has an opportunity to do that. And so he wants him to be a better athlete and a better human being. The humility that you get out of Coach Prime and the way that he's been leading this team, it's been a breath of fresh air when it comes to coaching. Like I mentioned in past videos, Coach Prime is very old school. So he does a lot of old school things. And for him to look at Cormani and say, look, I just want you to be great. I want you to be a better human being and push him. Touched your boy. I thought that was a good touch to what's going on. Now, I think the other problem you're going to run into here is, as Cormani has been speaking, he hasn't been speaking as highly as you would have liked about his experience for the most part. Taking little shots and swipes here and there. But I do believe that, overall, Coach Prime had his best interest at heart and tried everything he possibly could to make sure the kid was being successful. And honestly, I think a better situation for him was going somewhere else, possibly closer to home, will make him a better man.
Yeah, a lot of people are down on Cormani because he said this or he took this shot. He's being a 19-year-old, in my opinion. I'm not justifying it and saying that it's right by any means, but I did worse than that at 19. I just did, and that doesn't make it right. But I think you're seeing the reaction of a very mature, very whatever the opposite of self-centered is, from Coach Prime, right? Very people-centered and not worried about himself. He is worried about Cormani. He does see these kids as his own at times, and I think it's kind of hurt him, like it does any parent when you kind of have the cheap shots coming back. But again, I took cheap shots like that back at my parents. You guys have seen the video. I'm talking about playing for a real program and not wanting to play for clicks. Those are obvious shots at Colorado. But what's interesting for me is when he committed, it was about the clicks. And again, I'm not going to turn this into a Cormani bash session, but you look at the way that he committed and the way that he strung Miami along, which I'm never going to have a huge problem with being in my seat. But I think that it's just the immaturity. And hopefully, as he continues to grow as a person, as a football player, hopefully he's able to do some special things. He's a very talented kid. Hopefully some of that maturity comes along with him. I don't know that I would be too much different at 19. If I felt like I was wronged, or if I felt like, oh man, now I'm not playing for the GOAT. Now I'm having to go to another program that I don't want to go to. I've already uprooted my life from Miami, South Florida, all the way to Colorado. I changed plans on what I was going to end up doing there. Obviously, originally from Lakeland, so Central Florida, but now I've got to go somewhere else. I would probably be taking cheap shots too, because that's just what immature 19-year-olds do. Again, not to excuse it, but I can at least reason with it a bit.
Yeah, and Prime really talked about some of the things that, the expectations he has of his kids, right? You got to go to class. You got to, get good grades. You got to be listening, right? You got to be paying attention in practice. You got to be present at practice. You got to show up to practice. You got to be on time to practice. So many different things that you need to learn just as a man. Coach Prime was really trying to teach those things that require just required of you in order to be an adult, and that's really huge for, like I said, what they're trying to do there at Colorado. He wants to build everybody into good men. He wants to build them into good members of society, while also leveraging and taking advantage of the highest part of potential that they all have on the football field. And so for a kid like Cormani, like he said, taking shots, I was young too. I'd done dumb stuff. We've all been there. Some of us were way more mature than others, and cool. I'm glad that you was more mature than the rest of us. I'm not even going to judge you for judging us. But the thing with Cormani is, once he figures out what he wants to be or who he wants to be and how great he wants to be, he has a good chance and opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, he couldn't learn from the GOAT like Travis Hunter did. Travis Hunter recognized what he could be and his potentials. I want to follow that guy. And so as long as Cormani figures it out, I think he'll be in good hands.
Sometimes we in life need a wake-up call, and hopefully that comes sooner rather than later for Cormani. Again, this not being a shot, but if you look at his offer list and you read some of the reports out there, there are not five-star caliber type programs clamoring after him, because I think they see the way that you're leaving a program, the shots you take, the subtle jabs here or there, and they kind of say like, man, this guy couldn't make it work under the GOAT. Is he going to make it work where we're at? Now, I think that there are some places that he could end up that would be really good for him. I know that he has a good relationship with the DB coach there at USF. I know that UCF is a program that's on the rise. That'd be interesting if he ended up there and got to go up against Colorado this year. And then Memphis has been mentioned as well. But hopefully he can kind of figure that out sooner rather than later, pick his head up, and go on to move on to bigger, better, and hopefully greater things. He's the kind of kid who can still certainly go out and ball out and end up making the NFL one day. He's also the kind of kid that if he doesn't get his head on his shoulders the right way, he is going to waste an immense amount of talent. And he's already kind of wasted a massive opportunity, potentially playing under Coach Prime, and hopefully doesn't waste even more of an opportunity being a D1 football player.
Yeah, and that's one thing you don't want. You don't like watching that type of talent and potential go to waste, but at the same time, we should allow young people to make stupid mistakes sometimes. Yeah. Now, you don't want them to, but they are. It's okay to make a dumb mistake every once in a while, as long as it's not something detrimental to your future. And as of right now, he hasn't done anything that's going to be detrimental to himself. He's just not going to be playing at the highest level like he would like to, just for right now. Now, I know that there was a very large list of schools that inquired initially, but it looks like, as you mentioned, it dwindled down to visits with UCF, USF, Memphis, some of the smaller, G5 programs, as of right now. They're the ones that's most likely going to, end up landing him. And that's okay. That's a great place to get him going, get his feet settled, get his mind right. And if he balls out and decides he wants to go to a bigger program, the opportunity's still going to be there. The transfer portal allows for people to give it as well as take it away. So as long as he goes in there and do the right things he's supposed to do, he has an opportunity to make something happen.
Jay's going to be helping us out here on the Prime Time for College Football, doing some content, doing some different stuff for us, maybe some of our day-to-day stuff as we transition a little bit. Jay, where can people follow you? Where can they find some of your other work? Tell the folks just a bit about you if they didn't catch our last episode.
Yeah, if you want to check me out, you can follow me at Unfair Sports. I do a lot of OU content and college football content. You can also check out, of course, at Prime Time College Football. I'll be helping with that Twitter handle there and putting some content out to talk all Buffs football. So check us out.
Appreciate you, man, for jumping in. If you missed our first conversation, you can click the video on the screen right now to check it out.